Bist theme, if I'm right.
And then that trio went to camp and turned it upside down. L-A-Z-L-O.
L-A-Z-L-O.
L-A-Z-L-O. And Lazlo was his name.
By personal choice, Camp Lazlo's Where's Lazlo? Ah, well, this is a pretty simple concept for a pretty simple show. As Lazlo seems to be missing, Raj and Clam go on a walk down memory lane to their first day at Camp Kidney. And of course, the first time Lazlo went missing. In here we learn how the trio met, set aside their differences, and became the best of friends. But sadly, when the 15-minute mark came, just around when Lazlo befriends a bear, everything sort of stagnated for some reason. Not to say it got bad, it just stayed in the same note through the rest, and then it just ended just like that. Honestly, even though this show is heavily underrated, I wasn't really expecting much with this one, since, well, the show had plenty of opportunities to go on big character development or create relationships, but it never used them to its full potential, which at this point it's a really common thing in this video.
God forbid we let a children's show be something simple for once. Would someone please think of the man-child demographic?
Oh, shut up! I'm not going to apologise for wanting better quality shows! I mean, in the beginning of the movie, it seems that the whole focus is going to be on Raj opening up to Lazlo and his goofy ways. And while it is the focus for a while, for some reason, out of nowhere, he suddenly likes Lazlo and then decides to go and find him. And the same goes for Lazlo, because apparently he left camp because he felt like an outcast. And holy smokes! That should be a huge deal. The whole point of the show is that Lazlo absolutely loves the camp. This could be a very interesting way to explore the conflict. However, it gets resolved in like 2 scenes or something. But still, I can't criticise it that hard since it knows what it is. It's just a simple, harmless little special episode with a couple of harmless jokes and a simple nature. It's just something you can have a little fun time with. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like the show, I say hey, go and check it out. And if you haven't seen it, I think this one is a pretty okay way to get started on the series. Ben 10, destroy all aliens. What the? Not those type of aliens! Just as the Omnitrix is having critical malfunctions for like the billionth time in a row, a bounty hunter starts attacking Ben, claiming he's protecting the target he came looking for. So the mystery is up to see who this mysterious target is, as well as finding out the reason and solution for all these glitches. And don't let the 3D models fool you, this is just an extended episode. But as it is written by the same people who worked on the original show and Alien Force, the story is actually handled pretty well. For a production set between series, and as pointless as the whole thing is, it's okay. Now, to be honest, I wasn't expecting that the bounty hunter was going to be the best character in this, since he's not only funny, but not giving anything away, he has a really believable reason to go to the lengths he goes to. There's also a subplot about Ben incorporating back into normal suburban life, which, let's face it, with a kid with this much power and so many adventures behind him, of course he's going to have some trouble going back to good old boring school. But yes, it is tackled, but it's not really explored. But at least they tried, I suppose. Everything else is pretty much by the numbers. The jokes, even though the writers are trying to mimic the original sense of humour, it's okay. The animation, okay, a bit impressive for TV at the time, but nothing special. The mystery, while a bit messy, it is intriguing, and the payoff, in my opinion at least, is pretty satisfying. Not Agatha Christie's Poirot levels or anything, but it works. Ironically, I think the biggest limitations of this movie was that it was made in 3D. It does make it a little bit more unique, but as I'm sure this wasn't given that big of a budget and modelling characters is hard and time was of the essence, the cities in this almost feel like ghost towns. Way too much space and barely any people whatsoever. And I'm sorry, but I just can't take a 3D model of Gwen seriously anymore thanks to the internet. But yeah, if you're a fan of the original Ben 10, you'll stomach this one fine. But if you really don't feel like dedicating time to what pretty much is a pointless production for a show that ended more than a decade ago, well then, I can't say that I blame you. The Flintstones on the Rocks. As Fred and Wilma's marriage is on the rocks, Barney decides to invite them to Rockapulco, so the couple may celebrate their anniversary and hopefully reignite their love. But problem arises when Wilma accidentally swaps a bag with a diamond thief named Xavier. Thinking the diamond is actually a gift from Fred, Wilma decides to keep it as a sign that their marriage still has hope. Fred, on the other hand, goes along with it, because as all married men know, a happy wife is a happy life. All the meanwhile, Xavier is plotting in the shadows on how to separate them, so he can get his hands on the diamond once again. Will their marriage survive this, or will it make their marriage stronger? Oh well, what do you think? I mean, if the same thing can happen in Viva Rock Vegas and these fossils are still together, then anything can happen. As you can tell by the summary of this movie, it's pretty much meant for adult audiences, which makes it all the more weird as I actually saw this on TV when I was still a kid. And it's not like I waited up all night for this thing. I mean, it was broadcast during the middle of the day, and without any indication that this wasn't meant for children. But regardless, I watched it all the way through and ended up thinking it was okay. And now as a grown-up, 10 years in the future, my opinion is still pretty much the same, with of course a couple of exceptions. The animation, while downgraded by the footage, is actually pretty impressive for TV. The visuals, while simple, are but effective. And I thought I would never say this, but this made Wilma my favourite Flintstones character. So yes, this sounds like a pretty enjoyable TV movie for both fans of the old show and new viewers, right? Yes, for the most part. Except for one problem, and sadly, it's a major one. And it's that Fred and Wilma's relationship is just way too toxic. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind that they're trying something different and things for more of a mature audience, but they made Fred a complete bastard on this version. And I get it, he's meant to be a rough contrast to Wilma's nice, soft personality, but he's just basically screaming and complaining throughout most of this film. And it gets really old really fast. The writers attempt to give him some kind of redemption by the end, but it just doesn't work, because he doesn't have one redeeming quality before this point, which makes the whole point of the marriage even more toxic if you really think about it. As of this moment, the movie hasn't been released on DVD or any kind of streaming platform. So if you want to watch it, you'll have to go look on a site like Kiss Cartoon or something similar. But yes, if you really like the Flintstones or just want to find out for yourself if it's actually a good movie, well then I guess it's a good idea that someone thought to preserve this movie after all.
It's my movie, my superhero movie. It's all about me. It's all about me. My movie, my superhero movie. Yeah, it's all about me.
Teen Titans Go to the Movies. The third, and for the moment, last cinematic release in Cartoon Network's history. And let me tell you, for a Teen Titans Go movie, this is a bit better than what I expected. Okay, I'll explain in a second, but first, let's look at the plot. Robin finds out that nobody wants to make a movie about him, on the account that both him and the Titans are considered big surprise jokes. So therefore he makes it his personal quest to find a way in which the Titans will be taken more seriously. We go from time travel to revisiting some of the franchise's old faces like Slade. At this point it's kind of pointless to talk about Teen Titans Go, since pretty much everyone at this point has just accepted it for a dumb kids show with a couple of good jokes here and there. And yeah, that's pretty much the case for this movie. A mixed bag that ends up being good for kids and tolerable for adults. For example, the movie starts off with a rap song, which in my honest opinion I am not a fan of these things in animation. But later they have this joke song called the upbeat inspirational song. That's pretty much just that. An upbeat tune telling us to get happy because the script demands it. And yes, while self-aware songs aren't anything new, in here they end up running over the singer. And that's pretty much the last time we see of him. He doesn't come back at the end of the movie or anything, and the movie is full of little mean and risky moments like that, which I'm actually surprised they were able to get away with some of these jokes for this type of movie. So yeah, this movie is pretty okay by any standard, and I'm not alone in this. For example, Snook says, "This movie is a fun time if you want to have a laugh. And it's better than what most people would expect anything Teen Titans Go will be. I just really want the actual show to be like this. The movie is subjective though, so it really depends on the person watching it. This movie is a good thing, seeing as there hasn't been a Cartoon Network theatrical release since the Powerpuff Girls movie, which was a flop. So it's quite interesting to see a 2D theatrical film again. In conclusion, I liked this movie. It was fun in my opinion. So yes, would I recommend it? Well, seeing as this is meant for kids, I'd say if you like superhero jokes and references, this will get some good chuckles out of you. But if you're looking for something a little bit more mature than butt jokes popping up every 10 minutes, well then, I guess this movie is just not for you or for me. Destination Imagination. Just as Frankie is feeling that nobody appreciates her work at Foster's, a mysterious toy chest containing a new imaginary friend arrives. But Mr. Harriman, seeing that the chest contains a warning, decides to lock it up in the attic. So Frankie, in an attempt to liberate the new friend from this prison, gets sucked into the chest by accident and finds a world where everything and everyone wants to serve her 24/7. So now it's up to Mac and the gang to rescue Frankie and find out what's truly happening inside the chest. Okay, come on everyone, let's link hands now and say it all together. This is not a movie, this is a special episode. But to be fair, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends was probably one of my favourite shows growing up, and this team of writers has always really been talented. So yes, this is pretty much something you'd expect in accordance to the quality of the show. But yes, I would be lying if I didn't say that I got bored halfway through. And I can't really talk without spoiling it, and yes, the main twist is that the main villain who controls this Playmobil-looking world is the imaginary friend, who's just a face without a body. Which, the simplicity of the idea alone is pretty clever.
Oh, really? To be or not to be a mediocre nerd with a dead YouTube channel?
Is that really the best you could come up with?
Oh, well, you're the one who wanted to upload a video each week, remember?
Anyway, yes, the main focus is the main villain. And let's face it, this is his movie. He's by far the most interesting character in here, and I really like that even though they are going to give out a really simplistic representation of mental illness in the show, they don't simply fix it by the end. They acknowledge that they'll have to work on it, and that they will be there to help him with it. It's just a shame that he never shows up again. But like I said, I actually got bored halfway through, and it's mainly because of two things. First, the sequences, while not bad, I could have swear I've seen these ideas before and done even better. Oh, and please, A senseless Mario parody? Come on. And 2, I really don't see the point in shoehorning all the gang in here, as they don't contribute much to the story, even though the writers make up a couple of excuses along the way. But in my opinion, they end up eating away too much screen time that they could have been using to develop Frankie, or the villain, or anyone else for that matter. If I could change something within this movie, I would make it so instead of the whole gang going in, it's just Blue, Mac, and Mr. Hairman. So in that way, we can not only explore what Frankie means to him, but what Mac and Blue's relationship with him is as well. Which, to be honest, I thought could have been given more of a focus within the show. Anyway, that's about it. You know the drill by now. If you like the show, you'll pretty much like this one. If you hate it, then I guess you'll have to just keep looking for now.
Easy to annihilate. So let's whirl. Let's gyrate. Yeah, let's dance, 'cause tomorrow you could all disintegrate.
Exchange Student 0. John and his best friend Max are obsessed with a card game called Battle Day 0. But when John buys a special pack from the internet, they soon discover that the cards act as portals to another dimension, bringing all sorts of weird and kooky characters to our world, including the new exchange student from Japan, Zero. So it's up to the newfound trio of friends to find and return all the characters that have escaped from the deck and return them to their original reality. This one is the plot for a series, by the way. A series that comes all the way from Cartoon Network Australia! So if you're American or you happen to respect your spare time, you've probably never heard of this film until now. And it's because this movie apparently never made it to the US. Why? I'm not exactly sure. But maybe it has something to do with the fact that it was made for Australia! So yes, as you can tell, this is just one big spoof of anime tropes and cliches like we've all seen before. And to be honest, I think this is a completely serviceable comedy. Okay, it may not break any major grounds, but I think it's okay. Even though the plot feels a little bit lacking at times, and yes, the animation is nothing great. But come on! It was made in Australia! Okay, I'm going to stop now. So yes, you go from the classical overbearing anime girlfriend, which has become more relevant nowadays the more I think of it. The good-looking, obviously, protagonist, the over-sexualized villain, etc., etc., and even more etc. Of course, not every joke lands, but it has its moments. For example...
This is the hallway.
The way of the hall, remember this.
This is the living room.
A room dedicated to the living. No one dead may dwell there.
And this is...
So yes, if you found that funny, just like I did, I think it's pretty safe to assume you'll get through the rest just fine. So if you like anime, and you want to have a little bit more of an innocent laugh at both old and new anime tropes, well then I guess this one will do just fine. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today. So this is going to be the end of part 2. So I'll see you next week around the same time. But until then, ta-ta for now.